Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Well, I'm in my plant nursery. Join me today as I give you a late summer, early fall update on my plant nursery. So let's go. I've done a few videos that go over my plant nursery business, which I just started this year. If you haven't watched those videos, please be sure to check them out. And what I'm planning to do is just give you an update on what I want to do with this plant nursery right now through the rest of the season before the snow flies. The growing season in New Hampshire is pretty short. So one thing I learned this year was when it comes to having a plant nursery and selling plants, which for this year I only sold perennials, is that a lot of my customers were very interested in the plants basically during the end of April, all of May, and all of June, and a little bit into July. But after that, things really quieted down. And from July through now, which is beginning of September, I've still had some people stopping by for plants. I would say a majority of them are either returning customers that have bought from me before, or they are people that have their own plant nursery and they just want to stock up on plants. I'm friends with a few people in the local area that have plant nurseries, which is actually wonderful because we're able to bounce ideas off each other, share things that work, that don't work, but then also we're able to share plants with each other. My plant nursery is definitely not huge, but I consider it to be a pretty good size. And I can tell you that right now, my plant nursery is pretty full. So I need to think about what I'm going to do with the rest of the plants that I have because I need to protect them for the winter that's going to be here before you know it. So what I'm planning to do is walk around my plant nursery here with you, go over some of the plants that are in here, some of the strategies that I have, and basically how I'm preparing with my plant nursery from now until the snow flies. My entire plant nursery is composed of plants that I divided from my yard, plants that I divided from my sister-in-law's yard, as well as plants that I winter sowed in milk jugs during the past 2 winters. On this side over here, there are a ton of plants that absolutely need to get healed into the ground. Over here we have bee balm. Over there are obedient plant. Over there are some beauty berries. And there are other plants as you go down this way here. All of these plants lined up on the side here are in individual pots and they absolutely need to go into the ground so that they're protected for the winter. I have double rows of plants over here as well as over here. And in between some of the rows are plants that are in pots that still need to be healed into the ground. So I still have a lot of work to do. And since I don't have enough room for healing in all my plants, what I'm thinking of doing is where I have open rows, I may just heal in a single row of plants in each of those open rows. It's better than not healing the plants in. They really need to be protected, especially because the plants are so small. Some of the pots are just 3 and 4 inches in diameter. I'm also planning on shredding leaves once the leaves start to fall, and I'm going to protect all my plants with the shredded leaves. Plus, it feeds the soil, so it's a win-win situation. There are some plants that I'm planning to cut back, not many, but some, and that includes things like the iris, and maybe also I have some chives in here. I could cut those back. I'll play that by ear, but I don't feel that that's necessary, that it has to be done before the snow flies. This is a different angle of the plant nursery. So again, those plants over there need to be healed in. These are all the plants that I have currently healed in the plant nursery. And this is a nice pathway that I have over here. Over here is another small area that I use as basically a holding bed for my plants, plants that I don't know where I want to put them in my landscape. So I basically have healed them over here. This is definitely a weedy mess. I realize that. So number one, I need to weed it. Number two, I need to absolutely pull out plants in here that I want to keep and that I can find a home for. This is very valuable real estate that I could be using within the next month. So I need to start cleaning it up and emptying plants out. And I know in this section over here, what I did last year was I didn't heel in any plants over here, but I did put down some soil. So it's just full of weeds. I just need to take a hoe, get rid of all the weeds, and I can get planting over in this area down over here. Here is one example of a plant that is absolutely ready to be potted up in size. You can see the roots are coming out from the bottom. This is called a sea holly. And while it was a tiny little seedling that I had winter sowed this past winter, it is now a nice big plant. But the plant will not be happy in these little 3-inch pots. I absolutely need to pot these up into bigger pots with more soil. And when I do that, at that time, I will cut a lot of these big leaves off because all it really needs, it needs the center part of the plant, a couple of leaves, and that's it. I want it to put the energy into building even stronger roots in their new pots. One thing that I did not have this year, and I definitely want next year, is I want to create some sort of a booklet that explains all the different plants that are in this bed and the different requirements each plant needs. What kind of sun, what kind of water, how tall does the plant get, what color are the blossoms on the plant, when does the plant bloom, if it does bloom. These are common questions that my customers ask me. And rather than repeating myself, or maybe sometimes I don't know the answer right away, I can have everything printed out and I'll have it laminated. And then it makes it easier for both the customer as well as myself. So I'm definitely planning to do that during the winter months. I'm also planning during the winter months on creating a Facebook page solely dedicated to this plant nursery. I've been using Facebook Marketplace to sell my plants, and while that has worked out really well, I think having a presence on Facebook would be great, where I can just give updates on plants and different sales that are happening, what's blooming each week. So I definitely will be doing that as well. Another thing that I think would be helpful would maybe be to label each of these rows so they match up with what will be in that booklet. I think that that would be nice. It might be a numbering system, like number 1 is chives, and then I have chives in a couple of places down here. I can label those as number 1. So that would be really nice because sometimes I have multiple customers here and I can't help all of them out at the same time, but at least they can then look through the booklet and help themselves a little bit. Now is a great time for me to be collecting seeds from my perennial plants. For example, here we have the great blue lobelia. That plant has been very popular, and where it's the end of summer, a lot of people are looking for that. It's just so nice to have this bright blue, vibrant color in the flower bed. I have sold out of all of them. Therefore, it's to my advantage to start collecting the seeds as soon as I can on my perennial plants. And what I'm planning to do is I will be using the winter sowing method to sow the seeds for all my perennials. I prefer to use winter sowing because I have grow lights inside. However, I use the grow lights for annuals that I grow. So the winter sowing method works out great for me in that case. Although I don't have a ton of space in my nursery, once I get everything planted, I can at least see where I'm at with plants and how much space I have. Right here, for example, are a ton, and I mean a ton, of sea holly seedlings that grew from early in the spring. And clearly, had I thinned them out early spring until now, the plants would be much larger. Well, I didn't get to it. My hope is if I get to it this year, and if I open up some space in my nursery, then I will pot these up and put them down in my nursery. I know that they were a very popular plant to sell in the nursery, so it's to my advantage to dig them up, pot them up, and get them down there ready for next year. There are a number of plants in my landscape that people inquired about and really wanted. So for next year, I need to be ready. Here's an example. This is Blackeyed Susan or Rebecca. And I do need to thin out this plant in my landscape. So I really should be potting this up also and making room for these in my nursery bed. So I think you get the theme. I need to make room for more plants. My pots were so unorganized as of a few days ago. I finally spent the time and I just went ahead and started nesting pots in here. I have a ton of pots, more than I probably need. But then again, do you ever have enough pots when you have a backyard nursery? So I have gotten them from other friends that have backyard nurseries. One friend, she likes to grow larger plants, so she really doesn't need these small pots. I love these small pots for the simple reason that I use the winter sowing method to propagate my perennials, and the little tiny plants are perfect in a 3 or 4 inch pot in the springtime. So that's pretty much what I've been doing is cleaning my pots and organizing them. And when I'm saying pots, I mean pots. I have a lot of pots, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So there you have it. That is what I am up to right now. And those are some of the things that I plan on doing from now through the rest of this fall. I have a lot of work to do, but I'm excited. I'm excited about my second year having a backyard plant nursery. I hope you found this information helpful. If you have a backyard nursery, I want to hear from you. What are you doing to prepare for the late summer, early fall months? Please leave a comment below, and until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.